women are terrified of them, and I will say some men too.
I'm scared of them. I'll tell you, they scare me.
They have been known to attack people.
How can you raise rats?
If I could have trained rats to tear people up, I would have.
The movie Willard plays upon a fear of rats that has paralyzed humanity since biblical times. But mosophobia, the fear of rats and mice, has decreased in the last 2 centuries as rodents have become popular pets. The Rat and Mouse Club of America estimates there are more than 100,000 pet rat owners in the United States alone. And, like the animals they worship, their numbers are on the rise.
I have about 40 rats.
43 rats. There's probably about 70 in my rattery.
I have 10 right now. I wouldn't mind having like 15.
I started with 1 rat, and then 1 rat turned into 2 rats, and then there were 6 rats, and then there was a dozen, then 20, then 40, and now I've got 200.
There he is, our enemy, the rat. He's about as loathsome a creature as we know, the bottom word in anybody's language. Look at that wicked countenance. Ooh, the mere sight of it gives you goose flesh.
How many rats have I dealt with at one time? Dead or alive? Hundreds dead.
Non-rat lovers don't understand that they are wonderful pets. They're very clean. They're very intelligent. They are not at all dirty or filthy or, you know, what they think of in the wild.
The rats that we're speaking of are not the white and brown cuddly type, but more of the dark gray, off brown, fairly dirty, will bite you type of animal.
The rat is by far our most costly mammalian pest and the most dangerous animal enemy of man.
Wild rats are very destructive. They carry diseases, they chew into your home, they destroy things, they pee and poop all over the place.
They do tremendous damage to our buildings, gnawing holes, weakening structures, ruining plumbing, and starting fires. They ruin large quantities of food and other supplies, destroying 10 times as much as they eat.
Rats have been associated with plague, with pestilence. They're cannibals. They're corpse eaters. If you open up a coffin, what spills out inevitably, besides rotten flesh, are the things that have been gnawing at them. They're small, they're powerful, they're carnivorous, and they're disgusting.
Rats mate from 14 to 120 times in a 12-hour period.
One pair of rats can produce 2,000 offspring in 1 year alone. They're the most prolific of all mammals. A single pair of rats left to reproduce unhampered would grow to 360 million in just 3 years. Selective breeding has created a whole new class of rat, the show rat, which brings honor, awards, and symbolic vindication to rat lovers and their pets.
There's this tremendous culture of rat lovers. If you go on the internet, you can see the freakiest damn things you've ever seen in your life. There are websites devoted to how to keep rats as pets, the right cages, the nicest blankets, the nicest mattresses for your rats. So there is clearly a culture of rat lovers. I just do not happen to be one of them.
The fiercely competitive world of show rats has been presided over for the past 20 years by Karen Robbins. It's her keen eye for even the slightest imperfection that can make all the difference.
So, he's got a chew mark on him. Somebody's been chewing on him. He's missing a testicle, which is a disqualification.
That was our rat. We kind of had an idea when he was a baby because it didn't look right down there, but our suspicions have been confirmed.
Judging show animals can be a tough nut to crack, particularly for an experienced rat judge. While televised dog shows can create lucrative endorsement deals for their owners, there are no rats to riches stories at rat shows, only ribbons.
There are some people who are very much into the showing and they get very upset when they don't win. It's not quite as bad as what I've heard dog shows and cat shows, how irate some people can get if they don't like the way the judge has placed their animal. This one's fourth, third, second, first.
We did pretty good. Got 3 ribbons. So, but I'm not really interested in the ribbon. It's all about just coming out and enjoying the rats.
Having fun.
Rat lovers seem to have endless affection for their animals, and that love also extends to their companions. Sometimes.
I've always said that rats are better than men because they won't ever leave you for the blonde down the street, and they're very loyal.
It would have been easier if my husband had been a rat. I mean, this divorce is going on 3 years now.
No, actually, I get along with my husband much better than with my rats.
I took custody of the rats, but there was one rat in particular that I wanted that passed away, and he has it frozen in his freezer, and we now have a custody battle over a frozen Siamese rat.
I had a rat at my wedding. I mean, you're into rats, you gotta have a pet at your wedding. I know people who are into dogs, they have dogs at their wedding. Well, why can't I have a rat?
I'm the one that wants to keep getting rats, and he set a limit already, and I keep going over that limit.
I used to judge whether or not I even go out with a guy, how he would react in the rat room.
And he gets jealous too, that I pay more attention to the rats than him. Yes, you do.
Can you believe that?
He shouldn't. There's plenty of love to go around.
But while pet rat owners duke it out for each other's affection, the elimination of a wild rat population is a battle that's been waged since the dawn of civilization.
Rats and mice are resourceful. Be in store for a real rat infestation. That means that there are going to be an increased number of rodents in the backyard.
The possible infestation.
The smallest opening to get into your home. Discourage the varmints.
The campaign to get rid of rodents goes back to the Dark Ages, when plague, they were spread by fleas on rats. They're ever present. You can look across the country at any of the major urban cities, and they all will tell you about rodent problems. Rats are part of our environment, probably one of the more adaptable creatures that we have in our world today. They haven't changed in thousands of years.
We make a lot of money on rats. Rodent control, excuse me. I'm a professional. I'd rather get a rat call than I had a roach call or an ant call. That's boring. A rat, because you're going to hear all kind of stories before you get there and afterwards, and I'm going to make up a few after I come back.
I think the worst case that I've seen is walking to a restaurant that was closed for lunch. The kitchen was closed, the lights were off, turning on the lights and seeing rats scatter.
I bet you there were 200 rats up there jumping around alive and well. Just turds this deep on top of where they make the pizzas.
Despite the perception they're slum dwellers, rats don't discriminate when it comes to seeking refuge. From tin shacks to mansions, anywhere will do.
We had a call once for a problem in a home in a very upscale communities. I think the average price of the homes are running $2 million. When we arrived at the home, we found that the occupants were somewhat dysfunctional. There was a wife who was an agoraphobic. Turned out they were not very tidy. In the trade, we would call them pack rats, where they accumulate material in the house to the point that you couldn't see the furniture for the amount of debris.
There's a couch buried under there somewhere.
There was a severe tree rat population in the house. And it was so severe that the rats weren't coming in, but they were breeding and going out into the community. And the rats had essentially taken over the house. The house could not be tented because the population was so severe that the rodents would simply eat their way out of the tent before they could be killed. In addition to that, some of the rodents were coming out of the house partially under the rodenticide that we were using, and so they were somewhat drugged. And in this area of Los Angeles, there were a number of crows, and they would swoop down into the street and subsequently pick up the rats. After we tented the house, we removed 20 tons of material from this house that had to be discarded. So it was a very severe population. I think in the end we killed about 250 rats out of this home.
I had one actually try to run up my leg. Big old Norway rat. The Norway rats are the big, husky, short-tailed. They're bad.
I was in a home, and as it turned out, I looked down at my feet, and for a moment I thought I had 3 feet, but in turn, it actually turned out to be a rat between my feet.
He hit right at my ankle, and I just went about top of my boot. I felt him hit my hand. I says, if he goes down in my boot, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But he just scurried on out. And then the rest of the day, let's say I was a soprano, because if he'd have went up my britches leg, they ain't no telling where I'd have been. I'd probably still be laying there.
Rats will attack people if you corner them. Just like any animal, it's a fight or flight situation.
It's not about big rats. It's about the things you can't see. It's about the things you feel crawling over your legs in the middle of the night. It's about the sounds you hear in the wall.
Willard, there are rats in the basement.
I think the filmmakers who use them best, including Willard, the original and the remake, I think what makes it so terrifying is that it's not 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 big ones. It's thousands of really little ones that just come out of nowhere and devour everything. Plays on our fears, subverts our fears, and rewards our fears.
With little effort, rats can create paranoia, fear, and nightmares. In fact, rats are so menacing that they can scare themselves. Researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology have discovered that rats experience nightmares while they dream. But where their nightmare ends...
They will eat just about anything you can imagine.
Pipes, metal pipes, copper pipes, aluminum cans, stucco, wiring.
Clothing, to plastics, to rubber, and of course to food.
When a rat bites me, I have a rule in my house. If you bite, you die. And I have snakes. So some of the rats are fed to the snake. I can't keep every rat. I would have 1,000,000. What would I do with 1,000,000 rats? I mean, my house smells bad enough as it is.
The Rat Lady of Chicago has a life that mirrors that of Willard Stiles.
When I was growing up, I was quite an outcast. I didn't have many friends. I wasn't like other people. And I was really tormented all through high school and grade school, actually. My life was a living hell. And if I could have trained rats to tear people up, I would have.
Tear them up. I'll say a prayer for you tonight, but you need help.
In addition to the 200 rats that I have raccoons, coati-mondays, African serval cats, alligators, iguanas, snakes, spiders, roaches, multiple lizards, tortoises, chinchillas, rabbits, chickens, ducks, geese, turkeys, peacock, kinkajous, binturong, skunk, and cats and a dog. About 45 different kinds of animals, actually.
First question, why?
People do think I'm crazy. Because I live with 200 rats.
I don't think too much of that. I wouldn't have it in my house. I think it's filthy. It's her.
I've actually had a problem last year with wild rats. The city came by and cited me, and I had a month to fix the rat problem that I had, and they had no idea of what I had inside.
Even though caged rats can be controlled, their owners find their pets are not easily welcomed.
No landlord in their right mind is going to rent to somebody with 200 rats. I was thrown out of every apartment I ever rented, so now I finally own. I'd usually turn one room into the rat room and just let them run free, and they would demolish the room. I mean, they would chew the walls, they would chew the floor, they even chewed their way through the screen to go outside.
Chew and poop. That's all they do. That's all they're good for. Chewing and pooping.
Rat droppings are a problem in any space, let alone outer space. In 1986, the first manned animal lab in space used rats as subjects, and hundreds of rats have been aboard the space shuttle ever since. Maybe the befuddled rocket scientists should have consulted with the experts.
It's easy to potty train a rat. You start out with a pan, and you put the litter in there, and slowly you take away the litter from their cage, and sooner or later they're going to get the idea to go in there.
Whether they're worshipped or reviled, experts agree there's no escaping the myths about rats.
The interesting thing about rats is that they have two pronounced front teeth, incisors, and they continually grow. In order to overcome the growth of the teeth, they constantly gnaw which is why if you have a rodent problem, one of the telltale signs at night is you'll hear them gnawing.
We can't catch noises, but once people have rats, every noise they ever hear for the rest of their life, they got rats.
Oftentimes, the public will see rats but not know it's rats. They'll think they're squirrels or something in the daytime.
Despite centuries of fear and loathing, rats have proven themselves to be among the most intelligent creatures on Earth.
Rats are very easy to work with.
Okay, this is my bowling rat. She's going to come up and knock the ball down the ramp into the pins and hopefully get a strike. All right, bowl.
They're eager to learn. They're very social.
Oh!
You can train them to do just about anything that you can train a dog to do.
Rats, I don't want to sound like a dummy here, they're not smarter than me, but they're very smart.
When I first started training rats, because I was learning how to do it, it would take me about 2 weeks to train some of the tricks. And I actually trained my first group of rats to crawl around in the coffin, to hang out in the coffin, and they considered it their home. But now I can train a rat to do anything within 3 days.
The doll is in the burning building. Help me, help me. The rat comes up to rescue her and put her into the ambulance. All right, so he's taking the doll down and putting her into the ambulance. There we go. Their carrying techniques aren't the best. Sometimes they drop the doll. But this rat's usually pretty good about keeping hold of the doll. And she's safe inside the ambulance.
The 17th century Spanish poet Cervantes had Don Quixote smelling what he thought was a rat. Ever since, they've suffered countless accusations of foul behavior.
They will eat their own, okay? If they get trapped, a live animal trap or a snap trap where they can't get out, if they're hung up by their tail or their legs or whatever, they will chew that leg off to get out of that trap.
A bleeding rat will sometimes spur other rats to become cannibals and eat the other rat.
They will do whatever it takes to escape, even if it means eating their friends, their family members. They have no consideration for, there is no such thing as love amongst rats.
They're dirty, crappy, kill them all.
You can't eliminate rats, and that's why people hate them so much, because you can't get rid of them.
Once viewed as a plague-spreading menace, the perception of rats has evolved over the last few centuries due to the advances in science and public education. The proliferation of rat lovers who openly embrace rats and include them in their everyday lives has created a new breed of pets to enjoy. But for others, rats will always be part of an inescapable nightmare that never ends.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.